Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 178 of the Peak of Serenity podcast. I am, as always, one of your hosts, Emerson, and joining me, we have my co host, Namali.
Hello.
And this week, we are going to be talking about more Mistweaver changes and other changes, but I like to highlight the fact that Mistweavers have gotten more changes in this patch cycle than they got in the entirety of BFA, Shadowlands, and honestly, Legion combined.
Probably. It's probably if you include Legion, it's close, but definitely Shadowlands and BFA combined, I would say.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, like, excluding the Legion rework, which I consider to be pre Legion because that happened during beta.
that's fair. That's fair.
But yeah. So there's other changes. There's some trinket stuff and things like that. We'll talk about whether that beacon to the beyond change makes it worth not using it. Um,
Yes.
but yeah, and then we're also going to be talking about BlizzCon predictions. We have a schedule. Gives us more information about
Oh
what's
yeah.
happening. And
Interesting
then we
schedule.
also have there's the leaks that have been floating around. We'll maybe touch on those a little bit.
A little bit.
Um, but yeah, before all of that, and how was your raid week?
It was quick. 45 minutes, man. We were in there, killed our three bosses, and out of there. We had sold one Sark mount. So yeah, which was the only reason we were in there. And then we have one more sale this week. So which one be a little bit of gold in the guild bank.
Nice.
But yeah, no, it's literally was like we killed Sark and like basically they were like, does anyone need anything for the rest of these bosses? And someone was like, I could use a bomb trinket. And we're like, well, we're not killing Skarn, so like no one else needs anything for their boss. Like, we'll get you another trinket
is
next year.
is
But like,
is bomb trinket like one of the ones that was nerfed?
I don't remember. I didn't. To be fair, I don't actually remember the name of the bomb trinket. I just know people
Dragonfire bomb
call it the bomb
dispenser.
trinket. Okay,
Oh, that's next tier trinket nerfs. Where's this tier trinket nerfs?
I didn't see it actually on the list. It was just Beacon, the Essence, one of
Yeah,
the
OCE
call of them.
essence. Oh, sorry,
Class
OCE
trinket.
dominance, Rashoks, and beacon. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So they did not nerf bomb dispenser, which kind of sucks because it actually is really good and also very annoying to use. Uh,
Yeah.
I have it
But
macroed
yeah,
into Keg Smash, and it still manages to be annoying when it puts my beacon on a 10-second cooldown right after it comes off of cooldown.
nice,
And
nice.
you could avoid that by not macroing it into Keg Smash, but then you have an extra button to push every 10 seconds, and it sucks.
Yeah, not fun, not fun. But but yeah, no, yeah, it was a very quick raid. We wiped once to Neltharion, I
Nice.
think. Or
That's
maybe
a
that we
good Nelth rekill right there. Only once.
yeah, I forget. Was that a no, that was a real wipe because typically we like wipe anyway just to get markers down.
Yeah.
But you know, yeah. So I only had one wipe, one shot Sark, which was amazing. That boss can go
With
one
a
of two
buyer
ways
too.
typically. Yeah. To be fair, the buyer knew like they didn't just die off the bat. They like
Oh,
knew the
they were
fight. It
helping.
sounds yeah, not really helping. They like essentially it was like a tank that wanted the mount
Oh,
or
okay.
whatever.
Not
So
helping.
like not helping at all, just being another target for things. But yeah, no, they were there. But yeah, no, it was an easy raid week. Then quit. Like then we're done for the entire week. So we'll have one more Sark kill this week. We got one buyer and then one old raider that like helped us out like 2 or 3 weeks during the tier just when we were really low on people over the summer.
Yeah.
So get her mount or her A mount. But yeah, I think then we're done because we don't rate. So we already said we're not rating the week of the 7th.
Right.
So when the patch comes out, so we won't raid that week at all. So it'll just be like patch stuff and then new content the week after that, the 14th. So
Yeah.
getting close,
Yeah.
getting close.
Uh,
How was your week?
it went well. We did not kill Sark or Nelth, and that was intentional. We had a sale for 7 of 9. And so we were gonna be re-killing 7. And we got our last Evoker Legendary last week, actually.
Oh,
Nobody
nice.
else needs an Evoker Legendary. So, and like, nobody's going to be using Sark Cloak on Prague. Nobody's going to be, like, we have all our beacons. Like, nobody's going to be Nobody else needs the Neltharion trinkets. We've got more Ash Candors, like I mentioned last week, more Ash Candors than we could use.
Nice.
Um, and so there's just like a question: do we want to do it? And like it basically came down to like nobody wanted to do Neltharion.
Yeah.
Like I would enjoyed going back and doing Sarkareth again. I like that boss. I think Sarkareth is a really fun boss. Neltharion is just miserable. And it's like when all the weak auras and stuff work, it's fine, but when they don't, it just sucks.
Yeah. And it's Neltharion 2, at least for my guild, is like that final before the final phase. So I guess P2, like the final little area you're in,
Yeah.
is always like we need certain people to get the debuffs in that phase. Or like it's just not the best situation. Is the nice way to describe
Yeah,
it.
like I don't think we have that problem, but we do have like the transition from the first to second area in phase 2 is just like our most frequent problem point. Like we
The
actually
ports
like
or whatever?
2 weeks ago, we had
Yeah.
2 pulls that night where somebody took the gateway early with the heart and
no.
just like slaughtered the raid. And it's just like that hadn't happened in a while.
Yeah.
Twice that night it happened. There's also just like you get the raid AoE right after the move. We have cooldowns to cover that. You get the one after that. We also have cooldowns to cover that, but we're saving the really big ones for the ones in the final area.
Yeah.
And so like that one's a little bit dicey, and we like, if things have gone wrong, people are, on the back foot. People die there.
Yeah. Yeah, we've nailed, like, we basically, so wait, I guess maybe in that section for us, everybody to actually takes the port, even though people with heart at that point, and they just spread super quick.
Yeah.
So like we have everybody in that area, but yeah, I mean that part's less sketchy now because on Prague, that was our most wiped to spot in that fight. Like we wiped more there than we wiped anywhere else. Was like that 30-second window.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
a lot of our guys are like drilled into like defensive. Everything gets sent during.
Yeah. Yeah.
Basically.
That's the actual like movement. Like same for us used to be like the biggest problem point, and we got that sorted out. Everybody again, like you said, defensives. And gradually it shifted from that first bit of the second section in phase 2 to being the second explosion.
Yeah.
And that became like the problem point where we would just like lose people. And sometimes it was weak aura stuff, like 2 people would get assigned to the same not assigned to this, but like they would go to the same spot, right?
Yeah.
They would cleave each other, even if they lived with another personal or just being a warlock. Yeah. Then now they have 2 stacks of the dot, and they're just ticking down too low to survive the next raid AoE.
Yep.
And so we lose them anyway, and it's just like that spot became a problem, which is really frustrating. And then people with portals in phase 3, that was actually
really.
I think in the future, if we get another fight like this, we're actually just gonna like not going to touch comp. Like that would be my vote. Comp does not change.
Yeah, once you start reaching,
we have one person or something that like we have one spot that we rotate people through, and everybody else, like the other 19, are just like.
That's no, I'm always number 9, by the way. Yeah. Which is like right under the boss.
Which like
in, like the first
few people never had to switch spots. Like I never switched spots because the tank spot is also a critical thing for positioning the boss. So like my spot never changed, which was nice. I didn't need the map by the end. But a lot of other people had their spots move around as we changed comp, and sometimes it's just like changing 2 people means that like, oh, we have an extra melee now. We don't really want to put them in the spot where they have to literally run to the edge of the room.
Oh yeah.
Stuff like that. But yeah, so we did the first 7. It went super smoothly. We were in and out in 90 minutes. We had our cleanest Skarn kill ever.
Oh, nice.
It was kind of crazy. It was one of those things where like we're 30 seconds from the kill, and somebody goes, "Is this going to be our cleanest kill ever?" And everybody is like, "Please shut up."
Like, shut up, please. For the love of God, don't say a word.
Don't jinx it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had our cleanest Skarn kill ever, which on the one hand, that fight still is a pain in the ass, and on the other hand, it was nice to be like, okay, we have this fight on lock.
Yeah.
It may be the last week of the tier for us, but we've got it on lock, which like half our raid's gone. We raid Friday and Sunday. BlizzCon is on Friday. People are flying back on Sunday. uh, next week. So we have like a third of the raid, including both tanks and multiple healers that are going to be gone for next week's raid. So we are not raiding next week.
Nice. That's fun. Yeah, we are. We'll have like I said our final raids, and then we're getting ready for 10-2, which will be interesting. It'll be fun. But cool. Maybe we'll get into a couple of the topics for today.
Yeah.
A couple of things. So before we get into the whole hot fixes and BlizzCon stuff, a couple of things came out this week that really aren't related to, we'll say, like BlizzCon or the changes in 10.2. So first up is Blizzard has, like they do every year, has announced their 12-month subscription offer. Basically, if you prepay for 12 months of World of Warcraft, you get cool mounts from in both classic and in retail. The what are the retail mounts is some like moon owl thing. Um, I don't know what is it called? The gleaming moon beast strains. So it's
Gleaming Moonbeast Reigns. It looks
yeah
like the like a if you mix the bear mounts with the what is the name of the night elf mounts? I
the
can't believe I'm blanking on it.
sabers,
Yeah,
believe it
saber
or
tooths.
or saber something,
Night
some sort
saber.
of
Yeah,
saber.
that like you mix like the armored night sabers with a bear. And
Yeah,
that's what you're looking at here. Night saber
yeah,
plus bear.
or like an owlkin and a bear.
Yeah.
It's a little fat, yeah. But in any event, it's a
Yeah.
short little stubby fat mount with a bunch of stuff on it. There's also a big old Hulkin Murloc
Yep.
called the ginormous Gurloc that you can get in retail, and then the Wrath Classic mount is like a red Drake, like a misty red Drake. So it's like the not the it has like similar like a Shadow Priest on a mount, but instead of being purple, it's more red. So free mounts, and if you play WoW, or you think you're gonna play WoW for the next year, it's a good deal. I think it's like a reduced monthly subscription price
Yep.
too. It's like 50-ish dollars, I want to say, something like that, somewhere in that range. I don't know the US at least. I don't know what that
Yeah.
is. Other one.
Each like you can go prepay like 1 month, 6 months, and 12 months, and like each
Yeah,
tier reduces it by like $1 a month.
yeah. So if you think you're gonna play the game for a year, it's worth it. Plus, you get some free mounts. You also get either of the next two 6-month offers.
Yeah.
So like
I'm
if
trying.
if they ever release another 6-month offer, you'll be
Yeah. I'm
eligible for that. So
trying to remember now if I am still on a 12-month sub. If I switched to 6, because I thought about switching at one point. And I don't remember.
I am definitely on a year-long sub.
Yeah.
Well, sort of. I'm on a lifetime subscription sub. Um,
Special.
so there we go. So yes, that was sub stuff, free mounts, free, well, not free, but if you continue to subscribe to the game, it's worth it. You get some cool mounts for that. Um, the other thing that came up this week is 10.2.5 was put up on the CDN. So on one of the encrypted vendor builds, 10.2.5 was shown, which basically means we're getting at least a little mini patch after the start of season 3, which I think was to be expected, but we'll see if this is the quote unquote faded patch or something else.
One important note, actually. This is not on the 2023 roadmap for WoW.
Mhm.
Every other patch was on the roadmap. So my money would be on this patch coming out in January. The 10.2.5 patch coming out in January, which, we're getting 10.2 in November, so that's not too surprising. That is around 10 weeks.
Mhm.
So that's a little bit slower than I think the other .5 patches have been, but right around the same time frame.
Yeah, plus you've got like holidays to contend with, so like you
Right, you
lose a
got
week in
Christmas and
Thanksgiving.
stuff.
Yeah, you use 2 weeks for
Yeah.
Thanksgiving or for Christmas and New Year. So, but yeah, no, I would agree. Like early next year, we'll see 10.2.5, and we'll see maybe at BlizzCon we'll see what's going to be a part of it. At least maybe a preview. Um, I would assume like with we can talk about this in the BlizzCon thing, but I am almost positive we'll get another roadmap at BlizzCon for 2024.
That would not surprise me. I think that is probably the safest BlizzCon prediction you could possibly make.
It's true. I guess the underlying maybe extra prediction is it just for retail, or do you think they add in the classic roadmap for 2024?
Mm,
Ooh, maybe. Probably
mm.
not though. Probably
I think
not.
just retail.
Yeah, I would agree. Um, and then the other thing that happened this week was Blizzard put out the official patch notes for 10.2, which are eh, honestly some of the longest patch notes I remember reading through for a major 10.2 release, particularly when you think about class changes. Because, like, there are certain classes, like, I'm just sort of scrolling through them now. Rogue literally is like
All three rogue
in
sprites got
other,
reworks.
yeah, but like that is like the amount of patch notes you'd expect in maybe a 9.2 like set of class changes, right? Like it's just, yeah, tons of class changes throughout the entire thing. There's of course like the stuff on new items and the raid stuff, new dragon riding glyphs coming out.
Look at all these
Tons of, yeah.
Mistweaver changes.
Yeah, tons of Mistweaver changes. There's PvP. The funny thing is the PvP changes seem pretty light compared to like everything else. Like they're about as long as the rogue rework changes, I'll say.
Which, to be fair, a lot of the rogue rework changes, like they, this whole bit could be summarized as like you have new talents. Your talent tree
That's
is
fair.
different now.
Yeah,
Same here.
yeah,
It's like your talent tree is different now. It's like here's what the new talents are. But like there's a lot of lines of text to say your talent tree has been rebuilt.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. And then of course they go over the UI stuff. I had forgotten about this because I was skimming this earlier. They updated the talent UI where if you take a point out of a lower
Yes.
tier, it doesn't then automatically remove every point like below it. So that's going to be a great quality of life change if you need to literally shift like a middle tier talent
Yeah,
from one thing to the other
I've
thing.
used that on PTR. It's nice. It
Yeah.
is nice.
But yeah, official patch notes are out there. You can check them out, read about everything that is coming in. I don't know if these contain the hot fixes. I can double check real quick from this week.
I don't
But
believe
in
they
any
do.
event,
There's some hot fixes that they announced as like not part of the main set of patch notes.
yeah, yeah,
So,
it looks like they're not in there.
uh,
So, or maybe no, actually they are. Weird. At least the Mistweaver ones. I don't know if there's other ones out there, but at least the
yeah,
Mistweaver class changes are in the official notes. But yeah, so official patch notes out there. And yeah, Mistweaver's got some changes in these notes. We want to talk about them real quick. Um, so some interesting ones. I think you'll see like damage increases to Blackout Kick and Tiger Palm and Spinning Crane Kick, which is awesome. Faeline Stomp got a healing and damage increase to 150% from 100. And then you get into the interesting changes, I'll say. So the first one is that Ancient Teachings of the Monastery now stacks up to 4 times. It was 3. So you get an additional stack of Ancient Teachings, which means when you use Blackout Kick, you'll get an additional Blackout Kick, which really helps the Chi G build, for instance. So that's going to be more healing while under Chi G, which is good. And then I haven't really looked at the math on this, but potentially, I mean, actually, I lied. It's not going to be more useful. I was going to say something about RSK resets, not actually more useful for RSK resets, um, in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, so Ancient Teachings changes, which is an interesting one, but it'll help sort of your dungeon healing and a little bit around like the using Faeline Stomp, making that a little bit better, because you'll get sort of the cleave there, and then yeah, the Chi G piece. And then we get to my favorite spell. We get some Essence Font changes. So Essence Font now heals 5 targets, was 6, and its healing has been increased by 40%. So the 5 targets to 6 is interesting because I think it still does 18 bolts. The limited testing I did, I still thought I remember counting. I think it still does 18 bolts. So there's a couple extra bolts that shoot out right at the end, and then the other thing with Essence Font is the healing increase to 40% doesn't matter, right? Like I think what developers note on this is like we aren't looking to heavily push Essence Font rotationally in the Guardians of the Dream patch, but its total healing output has fallen further behind than is comfortable, and this may help with Faeline Stomp's initial heal feel more impactful, meaning that like the when Faeline Stomp hits, it is a chance to put Essence Font on targets basically that get hit by
Oh, I
friendly
see.
targets
I
hit by
see.
your Faeline Stomp. But
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. The problem now is like you don't like with um with teachings of the monastery, the healing component, not ancient teachings, the buff. You don't ever want to activate it with essence font 'cause it's a waste. So you only ever take that spell when you're using Faeline Stomp. So yeah, it's to me this is literally like the we're gonna kill. Like to me, this reads just from a developer point of view like Essence Font's gone next patch.
I was gonna
It
say
just
that. Like based on that note, it's like, listen, we know you guys don't like Essence Font. It
yeah.
still has a load bearing role in the spec, so we're buffing it for now, but we're not gonna say we like it.
Yeah. And it's also, I mean, it doesn't materially change either the raid builds or the Mythic Plus build, right? Like you're not gonna all of a sudden start using Essence Font and raid again like you used to in Shadowlands and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So which is funny to be fair, because Shadowlands you only really ever used Essence Font for getting more cooldown reduction for your Venthyr, for your Fallen Order. So it's like wasn't really used for healing back then either. But yeah, no, this is to me. I mean, this Essence Font, yeah, changed. Just read as like this spell is going away whenever the next expansion hits, or it'll be heavily reworked. Like either way, but yeah, um, it's an interesting set of notes here. So damage increase is always nice. And Faeline Stomp getting a little bit better is good times for Mistweavers in particularly Mythic Plus, because you don't really run Faeline Stomp in raids. So
There's also some fun notes for some other healers as well as a tank that I want to just like briefly touch on.
sure.
Vengeance Demon Hunter had their Aberrus 4 set gutted. Their set, like, it's the number of souls that you consume like gives you bonuses and stuff. They tripled the number of souls you need, and then they cut the bonus that you get from it in half.
Oh Jesus!
Um, and like
They really don't want you using that set bonus, huh?
that set was maybe a contender for one of the best sets of all time. It basically let them have permanent Fiery Brand uptime, and Fiery Brand is, I think 40% DR is like the low end of Fiery Brand now. But I'm not sure if I'm
Nice.
mixing up PTR talents with retail talents. Um, but like, imagine if your set bonus just like took you from 12%, 40, like 12% of the time you have 40% DR to 100% of the time you have 40% DR. That's a huge set bonus.
Oh yeah.
Um, so yeah, that it needed a very significant nerf, or they were going to continue using the 4 set next year. It is just like, we're going to talk about Rashoks later. It is just kind of like funny seeing these massive
Oh yeah.
swings at current tier items. And then they nerfed Holy Paladin again.
Good. Good.
Another
Good.
3% off of their overall healing.
Yeah. And the Blessing of Sacrifice
That's actually
changed.
relevant. Yeah,
Yeah.
because we used Holy Paladin Blessing of Sac, because between Blessing of Sac and Echoing Blessings, you get like 45%, 40 or 45% DR on people. So we were using that as our external of choice for part of Sarkareth. After
Or you like the
our Healy priest left, uh, left to go join another guild, we switched to Holy Paladin, and they would bubble and sack, and that's like still worse than Guardian Spirit.
Yeah. It's so funny. Guardian's Spirit's good. GS
Guardian
is good.
Spirit's good. Guardian Spirit's good.
Um, and yeah, and I think the only, I guess, Discipline and Holy, the pre-specs got a couple of changes. Um, looks more like fixes versus any sort of
Yeah.
nerfs and things like that. And then Resto Shaman, sorry, I was gonna say Druid. Resto Shaman got a 3% healing
They took
buff.
the 3% from the Paladin and they put it on the Shaman, and they buffed the Shaman 4 set from this tier, which is a little bit confusing to me. But I mean, I guess
That's
it's
a
like a buff for the first couple weeks of the patch before you get your new 4 set. But
oh no, that is the new 4 set. Sorry, that's the
oh, that's
Amdrasil.
the Emergency.
Uh,
Oh yeah, I just can't
yeah,
read.
Amdrasil,
Yeah, it's the tree raid
Amdrasil. What is going to be the shortening of this raid? Is
tree
it A80ADH?
tree.
Oh, just tree.
Yeah,
People are just calling it tree.
I mean that's.
Is
I'm
that what
trying to make it
Warcraft logs
happen.
did?
I'm trying to make it
Oh, you're
happen.
trying to. So you should make it on the front page of Warcraft logs. Just call it the tree.
We don't
Uh,
have a lot of like abbreviations of raids on Warcraft logs. We just like use the name.
that's true. Damn it. All right. But yeah, those are the class changes. So still seeing tweaks. We'll probably still see tweaks up until like you know, hopefully not through the 7th. Basically, the 7th hopefully locks in classes for that week, but we'll
Yeah.
see. We'll see. And then I don't think we're going to go through these in any real level of detail. Maybe we touch on one boss, but they continue to make changes all across Mythic Plus. Buffs, nerfs, changes to things. Defense of the Ancients continues to be, I think, the focal point for a lot of these changes with a lot of like nerfs to the amount of damage and like the timings on things that happen. So yeah, so tons of they put out. I think there was like 3 posts. I only put 2 of them in our notes, but like I think there was also another post that talked about Mythic Plus changes this week. So I think we talked a little about this week, last week. I mean, but it is
Yeah.
the week. It's funny. It is weird, and oh god, I had a joke. All right, I'll hold the joke until we talk about trinket tuning.
All right.
But it's weird to see these changes going in now versus like the night before the patch. It feels like Blizzard is a little ahead, we'll say, like a little on top of what they're doing. So, which is I'm not going to say surprising, but not the same as it typically is. So,
Yeah. The theme throughout these notes is damage reductions on abilities. Basically across the board. There are a couple that had their damage buffed.
mhm.
Some of them, like there's some notes from I had Tears Radiant Barrier was buffed by 94%, but it had been previously nerfed. So on PTR, so it's actually only about a 30% buff from where it is on live. Um, and then there's a bunch of other ones where they just like nerf things by 30%. And I think some of that is likely to account for 2 things. One, scaling bugs on PTR. A lot of the dungeons that have been done for Mythic Plus testing were done actually with incorrect scaling values. So things
Mhm.
weren't doing the appropriate amount of damage. And in some cases didn't have the appropriate amount of health either. They were using season 2 values for a lot of things for a long time. And then the other thing is people do these keys with no affixes.
Yeah.
So like, or maybe they pick like fortified or tyrannical, right? But they're not doing these keys with like, the 3 affixes that you would have in an actual plus 20.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think these changes are likely just accommodating those 2 facts. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mythic
Um,
Plus. I mean, I'm gonna do my. I have to go back into Mythic Plus this tier. I'm so not excited about that part.
there's one more, like I don't see it in the notes actually. The Morchie change.
Oh yeah, that might have been the one I didn't add because there's like more Mythic Plus changes.
Yeah. So the Morchie change, I'm not gonna find it and pull it up right now. Those of you that have done the fight recently may remember that there's this spot on Morchie in Dawn of the Infinite where the ads that you're supposed to trap spawn, but there are no traps. And basically what they did is they removed that.
Oh, nice.
So now every time ads spawn, there are always traps available. And that's the gist of the change. Like it's an overall timer change, but like the mechanics of it are basically that you will always have traps to use on the ads.
Nice. Nice. That's good. That is good. Just from a timing. Yeah, because that was we were talking about that in the pre-show, like before we started. But that was the one annoying part of that boss on live is there's like the second spawn of the ads. There's no traps for like 10 seconds or something. So
Yeah.
um, definitely annoying. Um, all right. Well, let's move into. I think we're still on the tuning aspects of things, but this time we'll talk about items versus classes. So they've started, we'll say, Blizzard has started to do tuning passes on trinkets and I guess they're calling them cantrips, but the items with special on equip, um, you know, I guess buffs or spells or things like that from the tree raid.
Yep.
So yeah, so doing a bunch of tuning passes. Some of the trinkets, like some of the healing trinkets, you'll see some buffs to the healing and the absorb, a nerf or 2 to some of the damage dealing trinkets. But yeah, so we're seeing trinket tuning, which means like if you're looking for your best in slot list, you basically can wait for another 2 weeks, right? We'll expect to see trinket changes up until that point. It's just nice that Blizzard's doing them now versus the Monday before the raid launches, which is
We may still get
that
that.
is
You never know.
That's true, but that is typically when we see trinket changes.
Yeah, so like to
Uh,
give some like scope here, there's 3 posts. One of them about current Aberrus trinkets, 2 about next tier trinkets, from both Mythic
mhm.
Plus and from Raid. In total, the number of items affected is like 15, which doesn't maybe sound like too many, but when you think about how many trinkets there are in a typical
I
Raid
was-
tier, it's a huge portion of them.
Yeah, it's almost all. I
Uh,
mean, it's almost all of them at that point. I mean, I know that I think all but 2 healer trinkets were touched, at least in the current. Sorry, the
yeah.
upcoming tier. So
So the whole like we get people coming into peak pretty frequently, like a month before the patch, going, what are our best trinkets next year? And the answer is always, well, okay, people like to passive aggressively respond with the 8 ball, but um
good one. It's a
who
good one.
who knows, who knows? And this is why we're 2 weeks out from the tier, and they're like, these are big changes, right? Nimue's
Yeah.
Unraveling Spindle. Damage increased by 30% against immobilized targets, was 50%. Does that matter? Probably not for Raid, but it might for Mythic Plus, especially if you're a Frost Mage. Uh, Blossom of Amirdrasil. Just straight up everything about it buffed by 20%. Cataclysmic Signet Brand. 16.5% damage reduction. Gift of Ursine Vigor. Damage increased by 37.5%. And the health regen was nerfed by 8.5. Like, these are very large changes.
Oh yeah.
One of the trinkets off of Fyrax's Tainted Rage Heart, had the self damage increased by 50%, and the damage to enemies increased by 31%. And these are all trinkets, by the way. Like, if you had asked me 2 weeks ago to give you, like, if the patch launched today, what trinkets would you be using? The answer would have been Dragonfire, Bomb Dispenser, and Beacon to the Beyond.
Yeah. 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 I mean,
Uh,
the trinkets as they were tuned. Yeah, even before this were not very good even for healers. So yeah, so they've done a pass on these raid trinkets. They've also done a pass on the dungeon trinkets. Um, doesn't really make them, I think, any more useful, at least from a Mistweaver point of view. But they did buff some of the dungeon trinkets. Um,
I
so yeah,
I just can't help but, so okay, there's a couple of these that they're 2 minute trinkets, and they have them reset island counter, and now that's nice.
yeah.
Not having to deal with that at the start of the patch. Um, do you remember in Shadowlands, did you have a Resto Druid that like hard farmed Blackrook Hold for the amalgam trinket?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, they buffed that trinket by 12.5%.
Yeah, the biggest problem with it though, and the reason only druids will use it is the trigger spells for every other healer are bad.
Yeah.
Like it's just they're not good. But yeah, no, yeah, druids will still use it since it's like a part of their
And now it's
rotation.
even better for them.
Even better. Yeah, that'll be good. It's a good little change for them. So yeah, so they buffed or buff I think a couple of these trinkets that reduce them slightly, which is cool from a dungeon point of view. And then in the current tier, they have nerfed the good trinkets, hopefully enough. So I'll take the easy one. We'll
All
say
right.
Rashok's. Rashok got literally destroyed. It's a 70%. The mana restore was reduced by 70%. The healing has been reduced by 50%, and the versatility buff that you give has been reduced by 20%. The trinket's now just not going to be worth using. But the funny thing is it was more than likely going to be worth using throughout the rest of the expansion if they didn't make this change.
Yep.
Um, it's it's a very similar. It's funny. It's a very similar trinket to like some of the playing Wrath Classic. There's like a couple of trinkets. Like there's a dungeon trinket that is still the best trinket that like Holy Paladins can use, and we're in the final phase of Wrath. Um, so yeah, so yeah, it's a good nerf to Rashok's. Forces you to use some of the other trinkets. Kind of sucks about the fact that it had to be nerfed this much to not be viable. Because it is, I
Yeah,
mean, it's a very good trinket.
that is very much like at the start of Aberrus, right? Like, it was such a, it sucked like killing Rashok and not seeing any, and then you finally, like,
Oh
we
yeah,
had a kill where we killed him and we got 2, and it was like, oh, finally done. Finally
yeah.
done. Yeah. The other ones, I'm gonna shuffle these around a little bit. So, Ominous Chromatic Essence, aka OCE, nerfed by 5%. Um, I don't know that that matters in any way. Like, It's such a what? It's like a nerf to make people think it's been nerfed. Like this is the League of Legends tech, right? Like you nerf something
Yeah,
by a nonsense small amount so that people go, "Oh, it's been nerfed. I should try other things." Because
exactly.
I don't actually think OCE is better than stuff next year.
No.
At least once now that they've buffed, like we talked about, now that they've buffed stuff by 30%, you know,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah, but
think it's better.
even before that, I felt like it wasn't. It was close, but not like not
Yeah.
a rock solid choice to be better than everything. So
Yeah. Then Neltharion's Call to Dominance. So this was the best trinket from Neltharion, right? This was the Warlock one, I believe. Actually, let me check that.
and monk one actually. This was. I mean,
Yeah, Warlock.
this,
Yeah, it was the Monk one, but let's be honest, it's the Warlock one.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
They cut
Sorry.
the duration in half and cut the primary stat that it gives in half. Like they
Well, they
just.
doubled the duration.
Oh,
They
they
doubled
doubled the
the
duration, my bad. They doubled the duration and
yeah,
cut the primary
because
stat in half.
yeah,
So it's the same amount of average primary stat, but that does not matter for a Demo Warlock that wants it during their 10 seconds of Tyrant.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. And this basically, again, this was another trinket that like as a Mistweaver monk, we would have used without these changes Rashoks and this trinket.
Right.
Um, again, yeah, probably for the majority of the tier.
And
So
so this also affects Mistweaver, right? Because your whole, like your 1 minute Yulon ramp is like 8 seconds long now, right?
exactly, yeah,
So
yeah,
before, basically what this change means is you get half as much of a benefit from it during your Yulon ramp.
exactly, yeah,
And
yeah,
the other half happens after when you no longer care.
exactly, yeah,
Um, and then we get Beacon to the Beyond. Damage reduced
yes.
by 11%.
Where did it, is it now? Is it bad now? Rashok?
Um, this is I think you're still gonna Beacon to the Beyond will be the last trinket you replace. I think like right now you will replace Dragonfire Bomb Dispenser before you replace Beacon. Um,
Gotcha.
and some of that is actually just due to the practicalities of Beacon, right? If you look at Gnarl Root has a double damage phase. You can Beacon while he's taking 100% increased damage, and it's just really hard for anything else to compete with that. Like if
Right,
you look
right.
at Mythic Gnarl Root, you get the intermission phases. They're the first one's at about a minute and a half in, and the last one's at about or the third one's at about 4.5 minutes. And
Hmm.
so you can just beacon both of those and basically like double the value that you're getting from your trinket. And it is really difficult for anything else to compete with it when you are just doubling the damage that you get from the trinket.
Yeah,
And it's not the only place. Like Smolderon has a damage amp phase um, as well, and so there's other things too. Like some bosses have priority ads, and so you want to be like if you can just beacon an ad, right?
yeah,
Then that can really help deal with it in a way that like yeah, other trinkets may do more overall damage, but if you can do more priority damage, that's generally going to be worth some trade-off. So I think beacon will stick around for a while. Um,
hmm,
but like on farm, you're probably not using beacon.
gotcha, gotcha. Okay, okay. Um, but yeah, I mean, at least from yeah, from a trinket point of view, Blizzard's trying their hardest to make current tier trinkets irrelevant, which I don't, I don't know if I particularly like. I mean, I get it, but it seems like an art, whatever. It's not a big deal. It's like an artificial way to push us forward into the new gear. And like my
It
point would be like,
is.
just make the new stuff better than the old stuff. Like learn how powerful these things are. Like and appropriately. I feel like trinkets have always been like this, and set bonuses to I think to a lesser extent, but definitely trinkets where like they used to not care, not that they didn't care, but they used to not change things like this. They used to just leave it in place, and if you happen to use like a 2 tier old trinket, you use a
Yeah.
2 tier old trinket, right?
Yeah.
But there seems to be this like mentality of always pushing everybody forward. So here's what it is. All right, well, I guess we're talking about BlizzCon the last 20 minutes. So Blizzard this week posted the BlizzCon schedule for BlizzCon. So BlizzCon is November 3rd and November 4th, which is this Friday and Saturday. So they did post a schedule. It it seems like a very I don't know about you. My initial impressions light schedule. Like I didn't what I did do is I just looked at their announcements. I didn't look at the actual BlizzCon page if there was like more things there. But like I don't know where all the panels are. I don't know where, like, to me it just seems like it's a bunch of just like canned presentations that they're going to give out, and like that is it, right, on their major franchises. It doesn't seem like a typical BlizzCon, which like where's the panel that tells me why Sire Denathrius lagged so much every instance? Like, where's like the technical deep dive of that stuff? Because like those were always to me the most, or like the art panel, right? Like,
Yeah.
dive into like how hard it was to create the ducks that are in, you know.
Now
Um,
there are some things. So there's this has been kind of big news across the WoW sphere. There's no live Q&A. But
yep.
you can everybody can submit questions that will be answered basically on stream after BlizzCon. Um, and then the same announcement does mention all panels will be free to watch, uh, but there's no panels listed on the schedule.
That, which is why I'm thinking like this schedule is literally like 11 a.m. open and ceremony, 1:30 WoW, 2:30 Overwatch, 3:30 WoW Classic, 4:30 Hearthstone, 5:30
Like,
Warcraft
there's
Rumble. And
got to
like
be
there's only
panels.
one, but there's no, I think there's only one stage, essentially it's one camera. So every hour you get like the next thing. Yeah, I don't know. BlizzCon normally has like, they have like the whole like each franchise has its own line item, and there's like panels happening
Yeah.
across the different.
Well, there's also like there's different wings of the conference hall for
Yeah.
each franchise. It's would seem weird. Like, there's also things that we know aren't on here. Right? Like, there's the what are they calling it? That competition. Oh, is that the
That's
Warcraft
true.
rumblings thing? I don't know. There's
No, I think that's actual Warcraft Rumble, like
yeah.
the mobile game. that's true. That is, they don't have the guild
So
clash or whatever they're calling it.
there's a day two schedule that does have it for WoW only. That's got the Guild Clash at 10 a.m., Arena Finals at 12:30, Mythic Plus Showcase, which is another like event at 2 p.m., Mythic Dungeon Final at 4:30, Community Night, Raid Showcase. Like, but those aren't panels. They're like
Yeah.
competitive events.
It seems to me like just a bunch of announcements for like their major franchises, which is like cool. Like that's what you're doing. And this is the first in-person one, right? Since COVID.
Yeah,
Correct? They didn't
yeah, it
have one
is.
like, okay. So like maybe it's, and maybe there's an entirely different team, like not knowing how Blizzard structures, but maybe the people that put on the last BlizzCon in person are no longer there, and this is like a new team, right? New
Maybe.
set of people. Um,
Or maybe
you know,
they
it could
just
also
don't
be,
want to release the panel schedule because it would give away what's happening at with.
that.
But you would expect to see like Overwatch panels or something. Like, where's the hero design panel for Overwatch, right?
Yeah, where's the Heroes of the Storm panel? Because they just put out a huge patch last week. The two interns working on that game, getting overtime right now. No, I'm kidding. Well, they did put out. To be fair, there was a HOTS patch, but it was just like bug fixes. So yeah, so I don't know. It's a very weird schedule. I'll say. Not a lot of detail in it. Other than, of course, we'll see a what's next for WoW and a what's next for WoW Classic. So like, in essence, to me, that means like what's next for WoW, like with no real rumblings of a 10.3, we almost I'm still of the camp that it's an 11. It's a new expansion announcement, 11.0 announcement, and probably something to the effect of what's in 10.2.5, right? Like
Yeah.
what's their bridge content to get us into the next expansion. Um, so yeah, so I think to me that's what comes out in that, whether it's the actual 1:30 panel or it's a part of the opening ceremony. There'll be something in there that talks about 11.0, which I think is, yeah, all but confirmed. I mean, the leaks are hilarious. We can touch a little bit on it, but like a bunch of leaks come out, and to me, the funny part of all the leaks is not the leaks themselves, very interesting, but it's the counter people who talk about why the leaks are fake.
Yeah.
And so like, there was one that people thought it looked very good. It was like a screenshot of a website, and then also like sitting, or a screenshot of a laptop that a website opened for the new expansion. On the keyboard of the laptop was a mobile screenshot of the same website, right? Um, but they were like, people were deep diving, like the tree models are the same tree models they used in this expansion, and like when they did the Shadowlands announcement, they had all new tree models, and it's like, I love it. I love that there are people with too much time on their hands on both sides of this fight, right? Like the people making this stuff and like the people that are like debunking it.
That was
Um,
definitely the probably highest effort leak
oh yeah,
that we've seen. If it's fake, highest effort leak. If it's not fake, I mean, I guess it's not a high effort leak. It's
yeah, the actual leak.
yeah. um, but
But
yeah, the big one is that one. It's the dwarf expansion, and I
yeah,
there's some amount of maybe there's some real leaks in there, and maybe there's also just a bunch of people like want to collect karma on Reddit and
yeah,
latched on to the most realistic looking leak that they could.
yeah, yeah. What do you, I guess if you're in agreement 11.0 gets announced, what do you think the theme of it is? Like what, like not, I don't like not being big lore people. I'm not going to ask you like what area, but do you think it's a pirate themed expansion? Do you think it's this dwarf thing that came out? Like, do you have any inklings of like what type of content we might see in 11.0?
I think it's going to follow Iridicron because we're assuming we're not
Yeah.
fighting Iridicron. There's
Hmm.
no 10. If there's no 10.3, the Iridicron is going to be the Gul'dan. So the overall theme of the expansion, I mean, I don't know, it could be anything. In the same way that like
Yeah.
nobody really predicted the our Legion at the start of
Hmm.
uh or like midway through WoD, right? But
Yeah.
Gul'dan became the villain of WoD, and then became the you know nine no not nine 7.2 boss.
Right. Yeah.
So I kind of think that Iridicron is going to fill that role, which overall would point towards a Void expansion, even if it's like I guess I don't think it's going to be like monotone. I don't think it's going to be like only dwarves or
Yeah. Yeah.
only pirates. It's going to be Void plus X, and I don't know what the X is. The X could be anything. It could
Yeah.
be like a return to Draenor, and we do Void stuff there, and there's, it's Void, literally Void versus we got the hints of like the order bits there from
Yeah.
the Maghar intro. So that could be the way that they go is like reintroducing that, and we go back there, and it's like light versus void on Draenor, old Draenor. It could be literally anything, but I think it's in some way. I think it's got to tie in Iridicron. I don't think they're going to let it become another sword.
Gotcha. Yeah. They need to get rid of that sword. Need to get rid of that sword. I think it's going to be Void Pirates. So, um, I just want a boat and I want to
Hey, I
travel to
mean,
some. I want to
space
travel to some
pirates
real
like
islands.
the ethereals, like we
Oh,
could
that's
literally
true.
get space pirates.
Oh, that'd be so dope. That'd be
Like
so dope. Yeah.
Space
No, I
Pirates on
think
Draenor. Space Pirates of Draenor. There we go.
nice. What do yeah, I mean I think it'd be whatever the theme is, I think it'll be yeah, I would agree with you that it's gonna follow Ridicron like through the next portal, whatever that ends up being, or just somewhere else on Azeroth.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. Yeah, so I think we'll definitely see that. And I think we'll also get sort of an like I mentioned, like an intro to whatever 10.2.5 is, right? Like I think I guess in my mind 10.2.5 becomes like the faded version here,
Yeah.
where I think they do some type of faded, like maybe not the affix system again,
I
but
fucking hope
like
not.
yeah, but I think they do bring back the old raids, buff some item level on them, some things, and like just let you mess around. And maybe it's
Yeah.
not like a kiss curse type thing. It's only like a if you do the mechanic, you get a buff. If you don't do the mechanic, you don't get a buff. And it's
Yeah.
like that type of thing, right?
Yeah.
That would
And
be my hope if they do bring this back. But I think we get some sort of faded
one
thing.
interesting thing about that, right? If you think about the timeline of Shadowlands, when 9.2.5 came out and we went back to Castle Nathria, it had
Hmm.
been like 18 months
Yeah,
since Castle Nathria released.
yeah,
Um, if we get 9.2.5 or 10.2.5 in like uh let's say February, that's
yeah.
probably too soon. Maybe it's like
Yeah, maybe like if it includes this sort of faded thing, it's probably
Yeah.
like
Or
late-ish
maybe they
February.
shift the faded stuff back to like the 10.2.7 patch so they can do a 10.2 to 5 with content that's not raid
Right.
content. Either way, it's going to be like maybe a year.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it has to be more than a year because the expansion, like we got Vault of the Incarnates in December. So unless they're releasing it in December, it's going to be more than a year. But it's not going to be 18
Yeah.
months. It's not going to be
Yeah.
almost 2 years since the release of the previous, like the original release of the raid. So it's going to be a little bit more fresh, and I don't. It's going to be interesting. People still have pretty fresh memories of things like Dathia. Uh
Oh yeah. Oh,
oh yeah.
Dathia, and then the spider boss too. Oh my god,
Yeah.
dude. Those fights. Yeah. Yeah, no. So I mean, well, yeah, I think for me it would be cool. Like I really like Faded. I like the dinar system. Like I know that was sort of an experiment for them. It was like,
Yeah.
like 3 people basically at the company put that together. But it'd be cool that if they do it again, just to sort of keep the content fresh. Or yeah, and maybe like for the, because there wasn't really much for Mythic Plus. Maybe Mythic Plus is like every dungeon can be a Mythic Plus dungeon, right? I don't know if
Yeah.
they're limited to just the 8, but
Yeah, I mean,
um
we did get to do Mythic Plus season, and we got some old dungeons, right? That was where
oh, that's right. Yeah, that
we
was the
switched from
test.
the
Yeah.
Shadowlands dungeons to like all the mega dungeons plus the fucking train.
Yes, the one I voted for. I love that one.
Oh my god, I can't believe you voted for that.
It was I to be. You want to know a fun fact? I did that dungeon twice that season. That's it.
Hey, that's high for you
That is true. That is true. That is true.
in
I
a
had to get my
patch where you
2400
don't
or
have
whatever.
to grind for gear. That's high for you.
That is true. That is true. But yeah, no, I definitely think, yeah, I think some sort of faded in 10.2.5, whether it's 10.2.5 direct or 10.2.5.7 or
Yeah,
10.2.7, sorry. Yeah, that makes sense. I think we talked about this earlier too, but we definitely see a roadmap for at least
yeah,
retail WoW.
yeah. And we also like when we get a new expansion, we
Yep.
see systems. Like when we got the Shadowlands announcement, they announced Anima Power, and we're very quick to say like we know it's abbreviated AP, definitely not Azerite Power.
Yeah.
You know it was supposed to be, but they pivoted. And then with the the Dragonflight announcement, we got talent trees. We got
Yeah.
talent trees, we got renown. Um, what do you think the systems are going to be? What are the systems we're going to get?
Yeah, no. So I think we get, honestly, I think we get another. It's not a new system, but I think they do some major overhauls to talent trees again,
Okay.
right? Like I think that because they don't want talent trees to go away. So I don't necessarily think we get more points or more tiers because I think that is what they wanted to stay away from. Um, but I think we get a rework to what's there. And actually, to be fair, honestly, shit, I take that back. We're gonna get 5 more points in each tree, right? Because they've said they want people to continue to level, right? They don't
Yeah.
like the no level expansion. So sorry. So yeah, so I think we get maybe another row of talents in each tree, along with a sort of change to them. So it's not really a new system, but I think we do that, and then I don't know, like system wise, this is sort of like a wish list thing, right? Because like for me, it would be interesting if they, I mean, everybody's gonna say like most people are like player housing, right? Like that would be cool, but I don't think we'll ever get that in WoW. Like we won't get a Final Fantasy style like housing plots and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know system wise. I mean, I think it's honestly just from the way they presented Dragonflight, I think it's going to be an extension of talent trees. I think we get whatever the new dragon riding is. I think that system stays somehow.
Yeah.
Um, and then, oh God, I have no idea.
I think.
I
Okay.
So to me, actually, this might be so out of the blue. I think we get a rework on the event system,
Like
meaning
the
that
public events out in the world.
like like the public events, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think so to me, and this is just maybe it's my lack of wanting to engage with the game right now, but like those event I have no I don't know what the new events were. I don't know there was some storm things happening.
Hmm.
There was like, so I think to me, like if to me that content I think in the next expansion becomes sort of starts to take over the daily and world quest system, where like instead of having world quests everywhere in a zone, you have an event occurring, and that is where your dailies and your
Yeah.
quote unquote world quests occur. That'd
Yeah.
be my prediction. It's like an expansion on that system. I think
I
makes
think
sense.
that that sounds pretty reasonable. That's
Yeah.
also like Final Fantasy had in Shadowbringers, uh, the Shadowbringers, yeah, they like expanded their like fate event system,
Hmm.
doing very similar things to what WoW has now, and I don't think they've evolved that further in the current expansion, or announced anything for the next expansion. But it's basically like, there are events, they give currency, you can take the currency and use it to get things. You actually have to grind really hard to get them, but there are achievements tied to it, so people do it.
Yeah,
Um, so, and that's kind of like where WoW's current events are. Like, you do events, they give you currency, and that's like the whole system. So I could see like sort of subsuming um, some of the world quest stuff. One of the things that I think is potentially kind of nice about that is kind of putting people into the same area where they're all like,
yeah,
you go to Zereth Mortis, and not like there's an event happening and you just know, like, or maybe there's two or three events happening and that's it, right?
yeah.
And if you go to one of those events, there's going to be people there.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, make the world feel a little bit more alive around those things, I think would be cool. Would be cool, like an extension. Yeah, it's tough to yeah, it's tough to think of like something brand new. Because I was also thinking about renowned and like reputations, but I feel like that continues. I feel like it's funny, like a lot of the
Yeah,
Dragonflight stuff I think just continues almost as is because I think it went well. Like I think renowned is a better
yeah.
reputation implementation,
I can
right?
say that like reputation has never been the thing that I cared about. But I
Yeah.
did like renowned was nice in that there was pretty much like I cared about the crafting rewards from it.
Yeah.
And I've cared about that for previous expansions too. But I always hated doing it. And renowned was a lot more like, oh, there's like it's 2 levels to the next like crafting reward, so like I can work on that, as opposed to like going from revered to exalted being
Well, yeah.
a huge gap.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just having done that in like Ice Crown to grind the ring you get from rep, it's like,
Yeah,
yeah, it's a huge gap. And that's I mean, Renowned is also from my point of view, the way I play, it's nice to see things that I can then go and get. Like I can
yeah,
see the bar go up, I can see like the next level hit.
yeah.
But yeah, no, I think I don't yeah, it's funny. I don't think we see a lot of changes to that type of stuff. But
I
I think
almost.
that
Oh, go ahead.
sorry. No, I was gonna say my biggest thing would just maybe the event system changing and like
Yeah.
get rid of dailies and world quests and stuff like that.
So I have one. This is going to be the coldest take ever. We're getting dragon riding in the old world. Just like
Okay. I like that. I like that.
dragon riding in the old world. And then I was gonna say something about like replacing the class trees with something that's more like PvP talents.
Hmm.
But then I was thinking through it, and it's like one of the goals of the talent system is actually to give you something every time that you level up. And if we're not decreasing the number of levels, they still need stuff to give you every time you level up. And I don't think they want to like double the size of the spec tree.
Yeah.
So that kind of just forces you to have the class tree. So I do think that this is going to be, like you said, just more iterations on the class tree and spec tree
Yeah,
system.
or okay, wild take. But I don't know if you
Okay.
remember the Netherlight Crucible.
Yeah.
There was it Netherlight or what I thought in one system we didn't get anything new on patch. We got to empower the item that was already. Was that the essence thing? I forget. There was something where like they didn't add anything new, but you basically got to empower the
You
item
are
that was
thinking
already
of
there.
Netherlight Crucible. Like you would get
Yeah.
a relic. There were
Yeah.
no new powers on relics, but you would get a relic and you would take it to the Netherlight Crucible, and it would have two other random powers that you could pick on it,
Yeah.
and so you
So I'm
would get
thinking,
extra powers.
yeah, maybe the talents aren't new talents, but there are basically say like you have 5 points that you can basically empower some sort of existing talent that's there that does maybe a new thing or like just has an additional thing to it, right? And you have to pick and choose.
So
You can't pick the best of everything.
glyphs.
Sort of like glyphs, yeah. But
Yeah.
I'm
So
thinking
like
more like
major glyphs.
straightforward. Yeah, but I'm thinking maybe something a
Without the
little bit more
crafting
straightforward.
component, granted.
Yeah, or like even more straightforward of like now your revival heals for 10% more if you empower it, right? Like
Yeah.
just like a very like not a crazy change to what the spell does or
Yeah.
what happens, but like rather than having an ever expanding talent tree, it's like cool talent tree set at this, and then like the final 5 points are empower points, and you can put them in things to
Yeah.
empower them, which might be cool. So
Yeah. I
um,
think it's more likely we just get extra rows in the talent tree.
Yeah,
but
no, I also agree, but yeah.
because like we're talking 5 points. If it's 5 points, that's like an extra 2 to 3 rows in the talent tree.
Hmm.
If it's 10 points, then it's an extra 4 to 5 rows in the talent tree, which is adding rows. Like it's making it bigger, it's making it longer, but it's not fundamentally changing anything.
Yeah. Yeah, I the only thing that I'll say is like if they do that expand, like they're gonna run into the same problem they ran into in the original talent trees, which is
Yeah,
like eventually they just get too big.
yeah,
Um,
and I think that um, oh, I guess it would be 5 points, not 10 points, because of the fact that there's
five
two
and five.
trees. Yeah, it would be
Yeah,
five and
five and
five.
each. Yeah.
Um, I do think that they are much more willing. Like they did level the level squish, right? Like
Yeah.
I think that rather than abandoning a system that works well, they will just level squish us again.
Yeah. I don't think we see a level squish in 11.0, but maybe that, to
Yeah,
be fair, maybe that's a 12.0 thing.
I don't think we hit triple digit levels again. I think that's the bar.
Yeah.
I think we go to 80, then we go to 90, then we go to 60, and we repeat.
Yeah, to be fair, I think 80 even seems like the better number
Yeah,
for like a reset, right? Like, because
but that's
that's like,
also association, right? You associate 80 with a good expansion. I guess 90 was mop, right? Like WAD was 95,
yeah,
wasn't it? Or WAD was
it,
100.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's, I
yeah,
mean, I think it's just in terms of like the way I look at it is like 60 was always the base game. And so like jumping two
yeah,
makes sense and then going back, right?
yeah,
Like basically have like your iteration on like two sets of basically similar things, and then you
yeah,
can reset everything, right? Back at 60 or 50, whatever
yeah.
it is. So, but yeah, any other crazy, I know we're a little bit over, any other crazy predictions from your side? We didn't really get a chance to talk about Classic, but I don't think that matters. We're sort of not focused too
No,
much on Classic, but.
there's
The
not
only
really
thing I'll
anything
say
on Classic.
the only thing I'll say on Classic, so this is my bold predictions. Number one, we're gonna get Classic Plus, which is basically a retake on expanding the Classic story, I think. I think that'll be
Okay.
something that might be interesting. So essentially taking whatever 1.11 or 1.12 and going to 1.13, which is like not new raids, but new in-world story stuff. Because I think that's what makes Classic good.
I would actually not be surprised to see a alt classic expansion like
Okay.
that's like elementals. You know, there was the whole Hydraxian water lords versus the fire elementals thing that
Yep.
kind of just went away.
Yeah, it never really happened. Yeah. Yeah.
And so we got like the Firelands in Cataclysm, but that was way later. But doing like a direct like, hey, we're gonna take this plot thread from Classic that didn't get delivered on and do a whole expansion about it.
Yeah, that would I the only reason I'd hesitate on something like that is just the story divergence. So like if
Yeah,
that affects retail at all, but yeah, I mean they could see that. I was thinking more of like, they take like an in-world area like the gates in like the east of wetlands
right.
where like was it Grim Batol, and like
Yeah,
that they add some sort of content there, even if
yeah,
it's not like a new dungeon or a new raid.
yeah,
Maybe it's just an outdoor like world thing. So I think that's where Classic is at its best, is like the world content being good. I think the easy one is we get a Cataclysm Classic Cat announcement
yeah,
sometime next year.
yeah,
It comes out sometime next year. So,
yeah.
but yeah.
The
Um,
I actually I have one final prediction. I have one
cool.
final
All right,
prediction. Um,
let's hear it.
here's this is a little bit of a spicy one. I think that they will either in a panel, maybe not in the main announcement, but in a panel, I think that they will announce a shift to keeping raid content current throughout an expansion, like in
Ooh.
Classic. So you'll be able to do like in Wrath Classic right now, you can go and do Nex Ramus and Ulduar, and that's like a path to gearing up for ICC.
Yep.
Um, and those raids are like you're basically doing normal mode kind of content, but like keeping that as a path to gearing up, where trying to make sure that like normal Vault of the Incarnates, you can like roll and all, and then you do normal Vault, and then you do normal Aberrus, and then you're ready for normal tree raid, right?
Yeah.
And
And
so
do you think they use the crest system as a way to like, because like that's what keeps Wrath classic current or Wrath content current is there are badges, there are a level of badges that drop in
Yeah.
each one of those raids. So like you can always get older items to like,
Yeah.
yeah, that would be. I mean, it would be cool. I think the only way to me not the only way, but the way that that makes sense is if they disable Mythic
Yeah,
for those old
I think it
raids.
would have to be like Mythic would
Yeah,
just like you could probably still do it, but it wouldn't be upscaled. It wouldn't drop new quality
yeah,
items. They just I think that there's a bar. I think Mythic is too high and it becomes toxic, and I think
yeah,
Heroic is like on the edge where like you could kind of I think you could keep Heroic around, but like normal is like clearly you could keep normal around.
yeah, exactly.
So
That makes it another way to gear. Yeah, to your point, gear up alts, right? You
yeah,
can do yeah normal rates. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I mean it would be cool. I mean like that's the same reason that like the last faded stuff was cool was we got to go back and like crush bosses. I mean
yeah,
the affixes certain ones sucked and it was kind of annoying, but like with no affixes, going back to crush old bosses is still fun. Like with like on an alt or something like that. So a different role or different class. Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Awesome. No, I think I'm down with that. So I could get behind that. So
yeah.
well, cool. Sorry.
Uh, yeah. I was just gonna start the wrap up. So
Yeah,
yeah, we are a little bit over, and I know we both have stuff to do today, but technical issues be technical issuing.
that is
So
true.
that is going to be it for the show today. Thank you all for watching and or listening. Apologies again for the stream issues. My internet sucks. But this will be going up on YouTube. We have a local recording of the latter half of the episode, so we'll get that up. And the audio version actually should be fine.
Yep.
So audio version should not have any issues. But yeah, that's going to be it for the show today. Thank you all for watching and or listening. And if you enjoyed it and you want to support it and the other work that we do over on the website, over in the Discords, you can do that over at our Patreon at patreon.com/Peak of Serenity. And of course, come and join the Discord. It is the best place to bully Anomaly for reasons that I will leave up to your imagination.
Just come hang out. Just talk to me. That's basically bullying at this point.
He's a very quiet guy.
Exactly.
But that's going to be it for the show today. Thank you all for listening, and we will see you next week.
Bye.